Chapter 52, Echoes in the Labyrinth. The battlefield was still breathing, not with life, but with the lingering tremor that remains when violence has only just withdrawn. The air was thick with dust, smoke, and the metallic scent of blood. Elyndor's banners struggled in the wind among fallen bodies and abandoned weapons, while the sinking sun washed everything in a muted red, almost weary. Riven stood still, his sword lowered, watching. Around him, the soldiers had begun to regroup. Some tended the wounded, others guarded the prisoners, who knelt in small clusters with their hands bound behind their backs. They were men of Valdara, exhausted, covered in mud and fear. There was no hatred left in their eyes, only uncertainty. Ralim approached, wiping his blade with a rough motion. His armor bore the marks of recent blows, and the fire of battle still burned in his expression. He was smiling. "It is finished," he said, "not without cost, but finished." A few paces away, Master Thorian was giving instructions in a firm yet composed voice. His robes were stained, not from negligence, but because he had stood where he was meant to stand, between the living and the dead. He lifted his head when Riven stepped forward. "And now?" Riven asked. He did not raise his voice. He did not point, but his gaze moved unmistakably toward the prisoners. Ralim followed the direction of his eyes and gave a brief laugh. "Now?" he repeated. "The obvious. We finish what began." Riven did not react. "Killing prisoners gives us nothing," Thorian interjected, turning toward Ralim. "The battle is already won." Ralim tilted his head, still smiling. "It gives us certainty," he replied. "They are enemies. They will raise arms again if we let them live. They deserve no mercy." Thorian stepped forward. "Mercy is not given because someone deserves it," he said. "It is given because it defines who we are. Killing them now will not make us stronger, only less noble." The silence stretched between them. Then another presence imposed itself, without the need to announce it. The sound of dark metal shifting over the ground made several soldiers turn at once. From behind them, moving with measured steps, King Galathor appeared. His black armor drank the light of the setting sun. It reflected nothing. In one hand he carried his scepter, the tip resting against the earth with the authority of someone who did not need to raise his voice to be heard. He stopped beside them. "They will be given a chance for redemption," he said. His tone was calm, final. "They will be offered the chance to join us, to fight for Elyndor." He pressed the scepter slightly deeper into the ground. "Those who accept will live. Those who refuse will die here." Ralim smiled openly, satisfied. Thorian said nothing, but his gaze, fixed on Galathor, made clear that he found the decision cruel, even unworthy. Not because it was harsh, but because it turned survival itself into a threat. Riven remained motionless. He did not approve. He did not reject. He did not question. He studied the faces of the prisoners, the fear, the confusion, the sudden transformation of a clear defeat into an impossible choice. The moment fixed itself in his memory without words. Then something changed. The pressure came first, a dull weight against his chest as though the air itself had grown too thick. Riven opened his eyes halfway. The light was no longer red, it was blue. A clear sky stretched above him, framed by the abrupt wall of the mountain. The sun bathed him in an unexpected warmth, almost kind, but the weight on his chest remained. Riven drew a strained breath. When he looked down, he understood. The lifeless body of the mountain lion lay partly across him. Its dark fur had shielded him from the wind through the night, trapping the warmth of both bodies. The beast that had tried to kill him had protected him from the cold. Riven braced a hand against the ground and pushed the carcass aside. The effort drew a low grunt from him. He rose slowly, checking his limbs to make sure nothing was broken. He looked upward. There was the edge from which they had fallen, higher than he remembered. Farther away, he said nothing. He stood, adjusted his gear, looked once more at the mountain, like someone accepting a challenge that needed no words. And he began to walk, because some memories are not meant to be judged, only remembered. The path ended without warning. There was no abrupt shift, no clear sign of transition. The rock wall they had followed for so long simply opened into a wide, uneven fissure, like a mouth carved by the patience of the abyss itself. The group entered it without speaking, leaving behind the steady murmur of water in the false sense of direction that sound had offered. Alden crossed the threshold first. The space beyond forced him to stop. The chamber was immense, not in height, though the ceiling vanished into distant shadow, but in breadth. From the elevated point where they stood, the floor descended in successive levels until it formed a network of stone walls, tall and straight, arranged in patterns that did not appear natural. This was no chaotic cavern, no hall worn by water. It was a labyrinth. The corridors were wide enough for several men to walk side by side, yet the walls rose smooth and oppressive, blocking any true view of the whole. From above, the layout looked intricate, full of forks, sharp turns, and corridors that vanished into gloom. Crystals embedded in the stone still gave light, but here their glow was colder, more distant, as if it shone out of obligation rather than generosity. "By the ancestors," Doran murmured. No one rebuked him. Sarah stepped closer to the edge of the drop and studied the ground with a practiced eye, following invisible lines, counting distances, searching for patterns. "There are no marks," she said, "no signs of passage, nothing that shows a clear route." Kyle approached slowly. His eyes moved across the corridors with an unease that did not come from physical fatigue, but from something deeper, the sense of being drawn into a structure that did not need to move to be dangerous. "How are we supposed to cross that?" Lyanna asked quietly. There was no fear in her voice, only realism. Dren did not answer immediately. He crouched, picked up a small fragment of stone from the ground, and tossed it into one of the corridors. The sound of impact echoed once, twice, then vanished, swallowed by the geometry of the place. "Sound dies quickly here," he said, "and it twists." He lifted his gaze. "If something follows us, we will not hear it until it is very close." Luthera gave a soft growl. Her body was tense, ears turning in opposite directions. She was not pointing to a specific place, only expressing a general unease, as though the space itself offended her instincts. For a moment, the group remained silent, studying the labyrinth from above, as though looking at it long enough might make it less real. Alden drew a slow breath. He remembered the passage, the mist, the sound of Murkhaz's tail striking stone. He remembered something simpler as well, that they had not come this far to stop before a question with no answer. "There is no way to understand it from here," he said at last. "If we wait for certainty, we will never enter." He turned toward them. "The only way to cross it is to go in." No one argued. They descended carefully along a natural ramp that led them to the first level of the maze. The moment their boots touched the labyrinth floor, the sensation changed. The walls seemed to swallow the sound of their steps, and the light, though sufficient, did little to ease the impression that every turn concealed something. They advanced in tight formation, Alden in front, Dren slightly offset to one side, Sarah covering the rear. Lyanna walked with one hand near her sword hilt, the other ready to summon wind if space allowed it. Cal kept his shield low but ready. Doran moved with his axe resting on his shoulder, his brow furrowed. Every crossing demanded a choice, left or right, straight ahead or downward. Corridors narrowing, others opening too wide. The labyrinth did not attack. It made no sound. It showed no visible traps. It simply existed. And at some point, Alden felt the unsettling certainty that they were not the only ones moving through it. He said nothing, but his eyes lingered a second longer than necessary on a corner they had just left behind. They continued for several minutes without speaking. 2 turns to the right, 1 to the left, a long corridor sloping slightly downward. Dren stopped suddenly. "No," he murmured. Alden looked at him. "What is it?" Dren pointed to the ground. There beside the wall lay the small fragment of stone he had thrown from the edge of the labyrinth. No one spoke, but they all understood the same thing at once. They had not turned back. They had not retraced their steps. And yet, they were in the same place again. Alden looked down the corridor they had just come through. There, between 2 jutting stones, something had changed. Very little. Far too little. When the group moved forward and the last of them disappeared around the corner, a pair of eyes opened within the shadows. They did not shine like the eyes of a wild beast. They did not reflect the crystal's light. They watched. They followed the movement with perfect patience, memorizing rhythms, counting steps, learning the way the intruders breathed and moved among the walls. The labyrinth kept the secret, and the group went on, unaware that every decision, every turn, was being recorded by something that had no need to hurry. Because in the abyss, getting lost is not always a mistake. Sometimes it is permission.